Welcome to this class. In this class, we will continue discussing the elements on periodic table. In previous class, we stopped at atom, while we are looking at hierarchy of biosphere. In hierarchy of biosphere, there are many hierarchies. One of them is hierarchy of matter and hierarchy of complexity of life, which we analyzed in the previous class. So let's begin. What is an element? An element is the unit of substance. Is the unit of substance. Is the unit of substance. Substance in this case referred to as compound because substance is a state of matter that cannot be split into simpler units by ordinary chemical process. So these are the three phrases that are very important to this definition. So let's look at periodic table. Periodic table consists of two things, the table and the element inside it. The table itself is an array. The table itself is an array. Table is an array is equal to array. And what is array? Array is an arrangement of items in rows and columns. The rows means period in periodic table term, while the columns means group. Whenever you want to write columns, always use Roman figure, which is Roman numeral. Whenever you want to write period, we use Arabic figure, which is Arabic number. Now, this is everything about this periodic table. Periodic table is arranged in period and group. So we have periods and group. Now, by looking at this, how many groups do we have? On periodic table, there are two sets of elements. We divide them into two groups. We have group A elements, we have group B elements. The group A elements, they are the one in group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5, group 6, group 7, group 8, or group 0. While the group B elements are the elements in between the group 2 and group 3 of A element. You see, the elements you see in this place and elements in this place are the lactinide and actinide series. If you look closely into the periodic table, you will see it is 57 to 71 and 89 to 103. So if you look at this number here, this is 57 and this is to 71, while the other one is 89, look down is 103. So that is the period, that is the place where lactinide and actinide series belong to. Now, we have all together how many groups? We have 18 groups in all together. We have 8 groups for A elements and we have 10 groups for B elements. That makes it 18 groups. Group 1 of A elements are called alkali metals. They are called alkali metals because there are many metals there. There are many metals there. So this one, which is group 2, these are the group 2 metals. These are the group 1 metals. So these are the alkali metals, while these one are the alkali earth metals. So we have alkali earth metals. So now there are also some groups that also have some special name. They have some special names like group 7 elements. Here they are called halogens. So group 7 are called halogens. So halo means salt. While the group 0 of group 8, they are called noble gases. noble gases. Now, by looking at this periodic table, we have numbers on the elements because we have discussed the table which consists of rows and columns. Those columns that have special name, we have discussed them, and there are about 7 rows in all the periodic table. If you could look at, this is 1, I'm sorry, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there are about 7 rows, which are 7 periods. So now let us look deeply into the periodic table. If you look deeply, we have elements in those places. This element there is called hydrogen, and there is mass number. So this number is called atomic number, while this number is called mass number. The atomic number, it is the number of protons inside the nucleus of the atom, while the mass number, it is the sum of the number of protons plus neutrons. So let us review our atomic structure. So in our atomic structure, we see that there is proton here, there is neutron here. And summation of proton plus neutron from nucleon. So the nucleon, it is the sum of proton plus neutron, which is equal to atomic mass. While the sum of proton alone is atomic number. So atomic number, it is the sum of proton. So we have now seen the meaning of atomic mass and atomic number. Now look, proton account for atomic number, and it is the one that represents our atom in actual sense, because hydrogen, which is the smallest atom, has only 1 proton. It does not have neutron. Can we say that because it does not have neutron and say that it is not atom? So between neutron and proton, the one that actually represents our atom is the proton. You will ask me that what does electron account for? Electron accounts for something. But you know, in a neutral atom, all atoms in real life are neutral, but they can lose electron or gain it by undergoing some processes. So if you look at atom, which is neutral in nature, the number of protons must be equal to the number of neutrons. I must let you know that the periods on periodic table account for the number of energy level that we are going to have in an atom. For this atom, for example, it has 2 rings. So that is to say, this atom here will belongs to period 2. If it has 3 rings, it will belongs to period 3. If it has 4 rings, it will belongs to period 4. So the number of those rings accounts for the number of periods. Now, we have seen what atomic number and atomic mass is all about. We are still going to discuss the reason why the atomic mass is fractional number. But note today that the atomic number of an element, it is the one that accounts for the number of protons, and it is the position of an atom on periodic table. Now, this is everything about this table for now. More details will be looked into when we will be discussing the periodic elements in chemistry. So the next in the line of our study is molecule. What is a molecule? A molecule is the smallest part of substances, or you can say it is the group of 2 or more atoms held together by chemical bond. That is, you can choose this or this, and if you like, you can write both together. And the next thing is that they can exist alone. And retain the chemical property of the compound. So you have about 3 phrases to account for in order to define a molecule. Now remember that this one said that with respect to compound, this one said that with respect to atom. If you look at our hierarchy, we see that atom can come together to form molecule, and molecule can come together to form compound. So you can define it backward or you can define it frontward. But the most suitable one is to define it with respect to atom, which is the group of atoms held together by chemical bond. So here we have water molecule, which is H2O. This is glucose, this is fructose. They come together to form sucrose. This is caffeine molecule. This one just represents some molecule that you may likely come about when you are studying chemistry, which is the one that you'll be studying. Now, let's progress. After molecule, we have macromolecule, which is the combination of two or more molecules by polymerization and or condensation. We are still going to look into polymerization and condensation as we are going in our course. So it is an inevitable thing to look into in chemistry. That's the reason why we are introducing you to this course, to let you know what likely things you will likely come about. So we have supramolecule as well. They are giant molecules that will be grown enough to form an organelle. So most of these molecules that can form giant structure are DNA, protein, and RNA. Now, the next thing is the line of action is organelle. We know that supramolecule can come together to form an organelle. Organelle, organ, and nail. Nail means small or little. So we say that they are little organ. Other words that denote little is echo. Example is particle. Ole. Example is nuclear. Vacuole. Yes, ole means small. Example is vacuole. And another one is ETE, earth, burette, pipette, small part, cigarette, small cassette, small case. So ETE also means little or small. OLE also means little or small. ICLE means little or small. Now, what is an organelle? An organelle are structurally and functionally subcellular components. First phrase. They are structural and functional subcellular components. What is the meaning of sub? Sub means under. That is, they are under cell. Components that are under cell, and they are the one that enable it to function, and they are the one that enable it to have structure. So therefore, if you remove all the organelles in a cell, it will not be functioning anymore, and the structure will be destroyed. So we are saying that organelles are structural and functional subcellular components. That is the first number one, which are found, they are found in specific parts of the cell. They are found in specific parts of the cell. That is phrase number two. The last one is performing some functions. So that is phrase number three. So in order to define the organelles, you need to remember these three phrases: structural, functional, subcellular components, find a specific part, performing some functions. The reason why it is important for you to include found in specific parts is because you cannot function if you are not in your normal environment. If you are going to function, your function is going to be limited. The way you will behave in your house is not the way you are going to behave in your friend's house. So therefore, we are looking into peripheral, we are looking into the organelle of the cell by looking at the cell structure from outer world to inner world. So let me give you this particular diagram so that you will know what we are about to talk about. So here is the plant and animal cell. You can see this tiny boundary here that goes around, and this boundary here that also goes around. Those boundaries, we call them we call them peripheral, not peripheral. So we have peripheral. Peri means around, while fera means carry. It means carry. So when we combine the word, it means carry around. You can say that they also carry around, they goes around. So that's what we mean that peripheral. So they are the peripheral region of the cell. You can say that is the one that separates the inner part of the cell from the outer part. So it separates the cell from the outer world or from its environment. So this is the inner world of the cell. This is the outer world of the cell, which is the environment. And that membrane, it is the one that delineates it from the environment. So what are we now talking about in this sense is that we have peripheral region. This inner part here, they are called cytoplasmic region, while the inner part here, they are called nuclear region. So the same thing applicable in this place. These are the cytoplasmic region, while these are the nuclear region. So any region that is very close to nucleus, it's called nuclear region. Now let us move on, since we have gotten the three areas that we are going to talk about. So since we have got that, we're now going to look at these three areas with regions in more detail. Peripheral component, which is peripheral region. They are cell wall, midlamella, and cell membrane. I should let you know that all cells have cell membrane, but only plant cells have cell wall. Animal cells do not have it. And the cell wall can be peptidoglycan molecule or polysaccharide, while the cell membrane is phospholipid bilayer. So now, the cytoplasmic component consists of cytosol and organelle. That is, cytoplasm is the sum of cytosol and organelle. The cytosols consist of all classes of food. Water takes the largest part, while the organelles are this: centrosome means center body, endoplasmic reticulum, endo means inner, plasmic means fluid, while reticulus means net-like structure. We have Golgi. Golgi is the name of the scientist. We have lysosome. Lysosome means break, so means body. We have mitochondrion, which is a tiny thread. We have plastid. You see plasmid and plastid. They are not the same. Plasmid means fluid, plast means mold, to build something, to mold something. So therefore, they are not really the same. Plasmid means fluid, plast means to mold something. So plastid are responsible for some structural model inside our plant cell. They are not inside animal cells. So plastid are only found inside the plant cell. We have peroxisome. Peri means around, some means body. We have ribosome, we have vacuole. Vacuole means little space. Nuclear component consists of nucleoplasm, the fluid inside the nucleus, as well as organelle. The fluid inside the nucleus consists of all classes of fluid. Water is the largest component, while the organelles, which are nuclear membrane chromosome. Chromosome, which means color body, it is the hereditary materials inside the nucleus of a cell, and we call it chromosome because we are trying to look at cell. We stain it, and the part that will absorb the largest dye will be the chromosome. Now, on this slide, you see many things. The first thing you should know is that we have cytoplasm plus protoplasm equal to what? Protoplasm. That is to say, the fluid of the cell plus the fluid of the nucleus is equal to fluid, first fluid. Proto means first, maybe because cell, it is the first entity of life, complexity of life. That is where life actually begins. Life begins at cell. So let us now look at this component here, this diagram. So we should know that scientists, we are not artists, we are not good at drawing, but we are good sketcher. Whatever we are trying to sketch should try to represent what we are trying to explain. The structure here is called mitochondria. So you must be able to sketch in order to reveal all the components of the structure that will enable us to know that this is what you are trying to talk about. That is very, very important. In this structure, there are some things from the outer part because it will be good to trace anything from outer part to the inner part. Here is a double membrane. Here is fold of membrane. And inside the fold, there are several things like that. Here is the nucleoid, like nucleus, nucleoid, like nucleus. So I say nucleoid, nucleoid. That is, oid means like. It is not nucleus. It is nucleoid. So now you can see that there are many things inside the organelle. So, sir, we have ATP synthase. It is an enzyme inside the organelle. We have circular DNA that also perform replication and duplication of itself. So we have the fluid inside the mitochondrium called matrix, and the folds of the membrane is called crystal. We have ribosome as well as granule. So if you look at the structure, you remember that the fluid inside the cytoplasm of the cell is called cytoplasm, while the fluid inside the nucleus is called nucleoplasm. The fluid inside the mitochondrium is called matrix. So look at this big structure here. If you look at the structure, it will look like something that you've seen before. So this structure, you can see that coming. So this structure that you are looking, let me bring it to your view, consists of nucleus, but it is not standalone. It's attached to this membrane. This membrane, it is an extension of the nucleus. This membrane comes from the nucleus. This whole membrane structure, we call it endoplasmic reticulum. Some part of it contains ribosome, which is that dot that make it rough, and ribosome produce protein. That is the reason why we say that protein synthesis occurs on the surface of raw endoplasmic reticulum. And it is raw because of the attached ribosome. Why this one? There is no ribosome, it is free, it is free, so it is smooth, so we call it smooth endoplasmic reticulum, and that is where lipid synthesis takes place. You can see that here, the fold of the membrane, they call it sexternal, while the space in it is called external space, that is ribosome, so all the structure is ribosome, and this is nucleus. You can see it's a double membrane. It's a double membrane. It has nuclear pore, it has nuclear envelope. So the nucleus of the cell, it is the control center of the cell, which is the life of the cell. Every activity that is taking place in the cell is controlled by the nucleus of the cell. The powerhouse of the cell is the mitochondria, which are double membrane organelle. We have single membrane organelle, they are lysosomes that perform the breaking down of one out part of the cell and dump them out of the cell. We also have peroxisome that eliminate all poisonous substances inside the cell by process of oxidation. So another thing in the line of this structure is this particular organelle. Look at this. This is the structure of nucleus now that shows the this particular hereditary material called chromosome. So chromosome is hereditary material, and it is chromo means color. It has DNA in it. We are going to look into the organized structure of this chromosome when we get to genetics. So here we have centrosome. Centrosome is responsible for equal distribution of chromosome during the present process of cell division. And mostly, this organelle is majorly present inside animal cell and then plant cell. And there are many of it. We have microtubules, we have microfilament, we have intermediate filament. So that's about this organelle that we have plastic, which are majorly present inside plant cell. So we have proplastic, pro means four. That is to say, this plastic is the one that form all other plastic, depending on condition, maybe weather condition, food condition, whatever, presence of oxygen and light. So it is the one that will transform into this particular or this particular plastic, depending on the condition. So the first one that you have here is leucoplast, that is white mold, that is responsible for production of white color. You can see this some flower petals are actually white color. We have etioplast, etio means earlier. We have amyloplast, amylo means starch, that's responsible for storage of starch. We have chromoplast for production of several colors. We have elioplast for storage of fat, elio means fat. We have proteinoplast, which is responsible for storage of protein. We have chloroplast, which is responsible for the green nature of plant and also responsible for photosynthesis. So this is where we'll be saying goodbye to this class. In the next class, we are going to continue to the last aspect of introductory to chemistry. Thank you for listening.